Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Sab Vaishnavan Ko Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing with the reading of this 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji's biographies, and where we finished yesterday, starting from there in Varta number 78, and today we'll continue into Varta 79. Day 103. The Vaishnav Brahmin said, "You are my elder and my superior, therefore it is not appropriate that I initiate you." The Pandit objected, "If you do not let me hear the Lord's name from you, then my death will be your responsibility, and you will be guilty of manslaughter. Please let me hear the name from you." The Vaishnav Brahmin relented and did so. He told the Pandit to always remember the Lord's name. The next day, after bathing, the Pandit sat and contemplated the Lord's name. He then requested the Vaishnava Brahmin to let him do some seva for them. He asked him to bring grass for the cow and feed her every day. The Pandit went off to fetch the grass. The Vaishnava Brahmin set off to beg for supplies. When he arrived back home, the Pandit Brahmin said to him, "I have got something that I would like to give you." "What is it?" the Vaishnava Brahmin asked. The Pandit Brahmin gave him the jewel. He asked what it was for, and he replied, "You can get as much gold as you like from this jewel." The Vaishnava Brahmin asked him, "Are you giving this jewel to me?" He asked him the same question 3 times. The Pandit Brahmin replied each of the 3 times, "Yes, I am giving it to you." The Vaishnava Brahmin then took the jewel and threw it into the Gangaji river. The Brahmin Pandit was a little angry and told the other Brahmin to give him back his jewel. "It took me an awful lot to attain this jewel, and you didn't even blink an eyelid, just throw it in the Gangaji. Therefore please give it back to me. Otherwise I shall die and make it your fault." The Vaishnava Brahmin asked the other, "Please tell me what this jewel is to you. What does it do for you?" The Pandit Brahmin answered, "It brings me gold." The Vaishnava Brahmin pointed out a stone on the floor near their door and that they used to sit on to bathe. He told him, "If you touch iron to this stone, it will become gold. It can make a whole lot of gold. Take it if you want it." The Pandit Brahmin had his water jug with him. Its handle was made of iron. He touched it to the bathing stone and it turned to gold. The Vaishnava Brahmin then also told him, "Listen, you see all the stones on the banks of Sri Gangaji here? They are not just stones, they are all gold. If you want, then please take them." The Panditji was astonished. "This man is extraordinary." He fell at the Vaishnava Brahmin's feet. The Pandit said, "Oh, Vaishnava, I am very offensive. Please forgive me." He stepped away from there and realized this Vaishnava Brahmin is really some great being. His path is the greatest. There can be none other to compare to his guru. He decided to stay put there. Then he came to Gokul, where he got to bow down to Sri Gosaiji and have his sight. He then granted him Brahma Sambandh. The Pandit Brahmin was a recipient of Sri Gosaiji's grace and an accomplished Vaishnava Bhav Prakash. The inner meaning of this story is that one should understand worldly values to be most inferior. One should know that everything belongs to Sri Thakurji and he is everything. He is the dear Lord and he can easily wipe out a devotee's accumulated karmas. Accumulated karmas to be most inferior. Well, worldly values to be most inferior. One should know that everything belongs to Sri Thakurji and he is everything. He is the dear Lord and he can easily wipe out a devotee's accumulated karmas just like that. He is full of grace. Association with this Vaishnava was so powerful that the Pandit became a disciple of Sri Gosaiji. Thus concludes Varta 78, the story of the Vaishnava Brahmin who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and was thus an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no real end to his tale. Varta 79. The story of Gopinath Das, who looked after Sri Govardhanaji's cows. Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Tamasi disposition. He is a cowherd who looks after Sri Nandaraji's cows. In fact, he is in charge of the cowherds. In the eternal Leela, his name is Govardhan Gwal. He is one of Sri Thakurji's closest friends and Sri Thakurji loves him a lot. He manifests from Ratna and is thus a form of her divine loving sentiment. He was born into a Sanadya Brahmin family in Gopalpur, Jatipura. He was initiated as one of Sri Gosaiji's disciples as a child. As he grew up, he served Srinathji's cows. After this, he got married and had one son, and he had all the family members initiated as Sri Gosaiji's disciples. When he grew up, Sri Gosaiji appointed him the chief of all his cowherds. He would always make sure that the cows were very nicely looked after. Sri Govardhanaji was thus always very pleased with him and would speak and play with Gopinath Das, who would reply unhesitatingly, as he had a very pure love for the Lord. Therefore Shri Gosaiji was very happy with him. Part 1. Once 8 bundi laddus, or sweet balls made of syrup-filled droplets, went missing after they had been offered to Srinathji in the afternoon, Uttapan Seva period. This caused a kerfuffle. The cook called out, "Why are 8 laddus missing?" He could not find out where they had gone. Shri Govardhanathji had taken those laddus to the forest with him and given them to Gopinath Das. Gopinath Das went home in the evening, and there his son told him that 8 laddus had gone missing from the afternoon seva. Gopinath Das said nothing. When the evening aarti was over and Srinathji had gone to sleep, Shri Gosaiji came down from Shri Giriraji and sat in his bedok. Gopinath Das approached him and inquired why there had been a kerfuffle up in the temple. Shri Gosaiji said, "Today 8 laddus went missing from Srinathji's seva. Gopinath Das had the laddus with him, and he showed them to Shri Gosaiji, saying, 'O Maharaj, these are the laddus. Srinathji gave me 2 of them and distributed the rest of them.' Thus Gopinath Das was a recipient of Shri Gosaiji's grace, to whom Srinathji was always granting his personal direct experience." Bhav Prakash. A doubt arises in this story, namely, upon whatever offerings the Lord puts his hand, they never diminish, because there is a lotus flower in Sri Thakurji's hands. Whatever he takes is immediately replaced. Why then do the 8 laddus disappear in this tale? The answer given is that Sri Thakurji is capable of everything and anything. He can play and bend and the play and whenever and however he wishes. There are no rules to govern this except Sri Thakurji's wish. He brought in this regulation to the temple servants' portions to make sure that the cowherds also got their portion. This explains Srinathji's very interesting actions. Srinathji's near and dear cowherd friends were hungry. How could he bear to see their hunger? Therefore he gave them the laddus. Thus he displayed how kind he is to his devotees through these unusual actions. Part 3. Once Shri Gosaiji was in Natadwara during the very hot season. Shri Gosaiji had dressed and adorned Srinathji and made the lunchtime offerings. When the time came, he accepted back the prasad, settled Srinathji down to his afternoon rest, and then descended from Shri Giriraji. He partook of his prasad, ate a pan leaf, and went to sleep. At that time, the temple cook Gopal Das had just washed his dhoti and was coming back from Pucheri in the middle of the afternoon heat. Srinathji approached him and said, "Please now go to Shri Gosaiji and tell him that I am very hungry." When his dhoti had dried, Gopal Das came to where Shri Gosaiji was sleeping. He saw that he was fast asleep, so he massaged his feet and said, "O Maharaj, Srinathji told me that he is very hungry," but then he set off towards Pucheri. We will pause the story here for today and continue tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. Shri Gosaiji ki Jai. Aaj ke Anand ki Jai ho. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.